Hello. I hope everyone likes that new little intro that I threw in there. I was kind of procrastinating, messing around, throwing that little intro video in rather than sitting down and starting to do the show and talk, which I find happens quite often. Instead of sitting and beginning the show and talking and getting to what I planned on doing all day, when it comes to setting things up and getting ready, I'll then begin some small little insignificant thing that I can add to make it better, or maybe saying insignificant isn't just, but I'll find other little things that I can start doing to prolong me actually doing the show. But with that said, that is the little intro, little disclaimer there. Because due to the topics that I'll touch on and throughout the history of this show going forward, the topics I'll discuss and be talking about will have to do with medication, will have to do with mental health, psychiatry. And due to being in Canada, I know we are much more strict on that sort of thing, so I don't want to be held accountable or liable to anything I might say or anything that I may think is best in terms of health or mental health wise. So it is always going to be strictly from my point of view, not a doctor, not a professional whatsoever, just a former client, former patient of the system with my own views and opinions and outlooks on these different topics. So, what are some of the topics I want to talk about and discuss today? A big one that I want to talk about is the framework and programming that not only society and your family and those closest to you put on you, in specific in regards to coming out of a mental health episode or a mental illness episode, the framework, the guide rails put on you by the doctors, the family, the societal impact that kind of puts you in this line, this straight and narrow path that you're then supposed to follow going forward. That is a topic I want to talk about. Another one I want to talk about is, after going through some of these episodes and different health crises, it's easy to become very cynical. It's easy to have a negative outlook on life following something such as a huge crisis or a huge episode of something that very detrimentally impacts your life. Coming out of something that can change not only how you perceive the world, potentially how everyone around you then perceives you, it can be easy to fall into a mindset of, why does this happen to me? Why did this happen to me? And following that, you can then become very cynical, and almost this brewing of a dark maniacal mindset can seep in. And with that, your situation, your life situation, your health situation will only then further get worse. Having a negative mindset to the world, going out and being a hateful, envious, dark creature, looming everywhere you go, everything you look at, having this negative perspective on the world, it doesn't impact you. It doesn't impact you beneficially. It doesn't impact your health scenario, and it doesn't help the situation that you came from. It doesn't then make what happened to you any different or any better to have a negative outlook on it, and then moving forward into the world, having a negative outlook on everything around you. So that's another topic, and I mean, I'm kind of talking about it in already in the topic breakdowns, but another one we might get to is me talking about the balance that you, and this is me, so it's kind of funny. When I because I'm learning how to do a show, and this has been a goal, and I guess you could say a dream of mine, something that I've wanted to do for a long time, is create some sort of show, some sort of talk show like thing, which is this, which is what I'm doing now. Be My Guest with Eric Guest is the show. But prior to starting these shows, sometimes I don't fully know what I'm going to talk about. I don't know what I'm going to discuss, whether they will be very impactful conversations, in-depth, interesting topics. But regardless of that, the practice of coming and doing it regardless is what will develop over time, as well as me becoming more articulate, more professional, more enthusiastic, and drawing people in with the charisma, the raw charisma of the show. But prior to leading and getting ready for the show, I've been leaning on ChatGPT a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, okay? I'm not gonna lie. I go and I sit and we scheme. This is what we do. We scheme up some topics that we can discuss in the show today, or in the shows of the future. Not only that, when I go throughout my day, any topics that come to mind, any past experiences that come to mind that could be beneficial to talk about in regards to this type of mental health psychiatry framing that I'm working on building and talking about, I'll note it down and then I'll bring it forth. So the last topic that we may get into is the importance of meshing everything in your disposal to benefit your life and your health. And what do I mean by that? I mean, when you come out of the diagnosis or the hospital or the episode, don't purely rely on the system of medication and psychiatry to be your only pillar moving forward in regards to what's best for you and your health. So you could think about it in a multitude of ways, in different pillars. There could be medication and psychiatry as a pillar of health. There could be therapy and speech therapy, so actually communicating and expressing your ideas or what's going on in your life. Exercise, moving your body, any form of yoga, exercise, walking, whatever it is. And then there are many more. I mean, diet, eating healthy, meditation, journaling, any form of expression, spiritual, getting more in line with God or a higher power. So there are multiple things that go into recovery and that can go into health and bettering yourself coming out of these very detrimental things and episodes in your life. Not just relying purely on medication, psychiatry, that's it, no ifs, ands, or buts. Because I think, to a certain extent, that's what we're told is the only thing that will benefit us. But there are a wide variety of things that can ultimately benefit us. So, I mean, bringing up, this is kind of funny, bringing up the topics, laying it out like that, I then start to just ramble and talk about it regardless, which isn't bad, but we'll get into topic number 1 for the day, which is breaking down the frameworks and programming that society, the institutions, and the family and friends that is built around you once you are diagnosed and sent off into the world after whatever your experience was. It's funny, this is separate from this first topic that we're going to get into, but the first time I ever sat and did a video, This was maybe 5, 6 years ago. I set up a camera, similar to how this camera is set up, not as professional, but I took a piece of paper and I taped it to just below the camera, and I wrote a couple topics, and I just freestyled. I just sat there and I freestyled and kind of went wherever the wind took me with those ideas and those topics of conversation, which is kind of, I think, the outline of what this show will be. There's no specific firm guardrails to what I can and can't do. I have the ultimate creativity. I can do anything and everything on my own. I built this little studio here, and I will grab topics. I will take input from people and just kind of spew my mind on whatever I think I see fit. I'm not, and it's fascinating that I want to be vocal and do a show and have wanted to do a show for so long, because I'm not an open person. I'm not an overly open person in the sense that I just willingly talk about these things, which is, I guess, contrary to what I'm doing right now. But in terms of talking to people, I don't willingly just bring forth these stories or information. I will if I'm asked, if I'm prompted the right way, or asked in certain contexts about certain things or past situations. By all means, I'm an open book in that way. But besides that, I kind of live my life with the motto, speak when spoken to. So going about my day in public and in group settings or whatever it is, community, I don't just willingly share a lot of this stuff. And I prefer not to be the topic of conversation. I prefer not to talk about myself constantly or talk about past stories, because, and this is an important point, if you are constantly bringing up negativity from the past and anchoring yourself to past stories or past terrible situations, and you can never get over those feelings and those emotions that arise when you think about those situations, you'll always be anchored in the past. And you'll never truly break free. You'll never break the chains and become free to be who you are moving into the future. You'll always be anchored into the past. So with saying that, when I talk about past stories of myself or past situations, I'm only willing to talk about it because I would say I've freed myself in a lot of ways from any negativity that may arise from those stories or those situations, due to reflecting and analyzing those things that have happened and talking through and looking at them from different perspectives, breaking down any emotional relevance to them and any emotions that still are connected to those situations, and essentially leaving them in the past. Because if I was still overly emotionally connected to all these stories and all these things that had happened, I wouldn't be able to sit here and openly and freely speak about them, because I would, not only would I have biases in a lot of way, potentially negative biases and negative thoughts and opinions towards them, but I would just be bringing up negativity into my current state of reality and my current world, which ultimately would do me no good. So, before you bring up the negativity of the past, make sure you have freed yourself from those chains, which is a work in progress to a certain extent. I think I have done a lot of time and due diligence working on freeing myself from a lot of that stuff. But that doesn't mean there will be hidden cynicism and hidden emotions in different corners of your mind, in different corners of your psyche. Those will always remain. And it's, I believe, our job and your job to go and find those hidden cynical thoughts. Find those dark thoughts and dark emotions that you still have from past situations, scope them out, and shine a little light on them, and find out why they create so much turmoil still to the current day. So, with that being said, should get into our topics. I mean, I'm just free balling off the top to my 0 viewers. No, it's good. This is good practice. I enjoy this. Oddly enough, I enjoy this. I enjoy building. I really enjoyed building this set. That was one of the favorite, most enjoyable things I've done in a long time. Another enjoyable thing I did was build my gym, my personal dojo, I call it. But then utilizing whatever space I have to get the most out of it, and then build something such as this, get a nice desk, or set up how framing works, how lighting works, how the OBS programming works with the camera streaming, all that stuff. I think it's good to constantly be learning new things and rewiring my brain to learn new things. With that being said, again, let's hop into topic number 1. Breaking down frameworks and programming societal and family put on you. What do I mean by this? When you get a diagnosis of schizophrenia or bipolar or bulimia or depression or multiple personality disorder, the list goes on. Once you get one of these diagnoses and you potentially get hospitalized or get set up with a psychiatrist, get put on medication, now you leave that and you get sent back out into the world. You get sent back out into your family and friends with them knowing that information and knowing that situation. So it's almost as if they have a extra layer of built-in awareness, a heightened sense of awareness towards you because you have this health issue, which I think a lot of it comes out of genuine compassion and love for someone, that they want to see you healthy. They want to see you succeed and be healthy in the world after coming out of a very traumatic, severe thing, potentially, which is great. And I think it's natural. I think it's instinctual to have that empathy. But similar to how the health system or a doctor will have its specific practices or guidelines of how your treatment should go, I think that then seeps into the family and friends around you, and then you are in a constant bubble of people projecting onto you how you should live your life, what your health should look like. And yes, this is a multi-layered topic and a multi-layered conversation, obviously, because some people come out of mental illness or psychotic episodes and truly can't take care of themselves. They're in a position or a state that it is dependent upon others to take care of them. So in that scenario, yes, it's just and viable. That is how it's done. But in other scenarios, maybe someone can freely express themselves or has their own ideas of how they think their health should be looked after, or maybe not the most ideal ways in which their health's diagnosis, their health situation is being taken care of. But due to the societal pressure and the influence that the doctor wields over the patient, the family around is so easily influenced by that influence that the doctor has, that they are then overbearing and pressuring in on that patient with all of the talking points, with all of the structure, the ideas that's. And to point out some specifics, I would say it would be, so say, I guess I'll use a personal example. There have been times that I've been on certain medications that were negatively impacting me very severely. And I'm very introspective. I know when a lot of things, or I know when something's wrong in my body. I know when not only physical things are wrong in my body, but as well as thoughts and ideas and potential ideologies are straying away from what could be considered normal. So I'm very aware in that case. So when I'm on a medication that is changing my outlook on life or changing the way that I interact with the world in a very negative way, I hate it and I want to change. I am a very strong advocate that I would prefer the risk of changing a medication and risk another potential episode of mania, psychosis, whatever it is for the, I guess this is for me, I don't know what it is for everyone else, but potentially risk that situation to find a better, healthier, more suitable, sustainable life for me, rather than succumb to these very detrimental, negative side effects of a medication that I know have arisen and are there. So, with that being said, not many doctors would be, I don't think their first take would be, okay, yeah, let's switch medication or let's lower medication. I think they're taught to stay firm at a medication, and not even stay firm at a medication, introduce more medications. So not only is it that you are to stay at your current dose or current medication, they're likely to introduce more medications, which may reduce those negative symptoms or negative side effects. But what's more likely is happening is that they are blunting those side effects, that the added medication is blunting those side effects, so you aren't even aware of them anymore. But it's almost a sleight of hand that because they're gone, you think that they aren't there anymore, but they are just being nullified and blunted due to adding more medications. So with this being said, this is the kind of framework and programming that those around you, of someone coming out of a potential episode or experience, has to deal with. And it's very hard. And it took me a long time to realize this, because not only was I going in and expressing to a doctor negative symptoms and side effects, but I'm also fighting each and every person around me that has been essentially programmed to think the same thing that the doctor thinks. So not only am I fighting the doctor to get a better situation for myself, I'm fighting each and every person around me to convince them that this is very much needed. And with that, you always hear the same arguments back. You'll hear, but the potential risk is that you can have another episode, or you need that medication no matter what. Like, no medication or lowering medication isn't an option. It's this type of messaging that is very prominent, and it's the status quo in the world of mental health and psychiatry, and probably in a lot of other things. Medication is the status quo for everything, And if one medication doesn't work, it's another medication that will work. And if it's not that other medication that works, maybe it's a combination of both of them or a combination of multiple medications. This is kind of the world that we live in and the health structure that we have come to live in. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating for me because I see it and I've walked through it in many steps, and I've had to try to figure out a way that I can express how it feels and how it looks from the inside compared to, because if I'm at a certain point of medication, or if someone's at a certain dosage that they can't even express maybe what I'm expressing now, how are they going to then fight their way out of, because that's what it is. I'm saying fight their way out of, because it is a fight. Every step of the way, it was a fight, and it is a fight. Because of what society has built, or you could say the Big Pharma Mental Health Institute has built their DSM-5. You go into the hospital, you get the label from the DSM-5. You are then prescribed a medication that goes clearly with that diagnosis. And you are required to death to be on that medication, or a handful of medications, likely. It's trying to reconstruct or reverse analyze the whole system to say why is it built this way, why is it, and why was it so hard for me to get my point across of what was happening to me, of what I felt was wrong, and not only what I felt was wrong, what was clearly wrong. So trying to get my point across was so frustrating. So that's why we're here. That's why we are here on this Be My Guest show. So not only will I get my point across of what I think is right and wrong in the systems that we currently have, I hope that it goes as far and wide as possible and reaches as many people as needed that come from the same situation that I come from, and come with the same feelings and same vigor that I come with, so they can then go and express and fight for themselves what they need to fight with. I want to give them the tools. I want to arm them with thoughts and ideas of how to better their lives and improve upon their health situation. Not only in medication, in mental framework, in physical form, spiritual form, all of these different subcategories. I want to help these mental health, mental illness patients, people of the system, then to move forward in their lives and pursue a happy, healthy, meaningful, purposeful, filled life. But yeah, it was so strange. It was literally, I don't know how many months, probably like 8 to 10 months that I would go in talking to a doctor, and I understand why, but I'll get to what was happening first. So it's probably 8 to 10 months of going in and saying, hey, I have this negative side effect going on. I want it to change. It needs to change. At all costs, it needs to change. And some of those side effects, I'm not scared to express what they were, because I know others have similar side effects. If I can remember correctly, there's been so many different side effects over the years of different medications, but if I remember correctly of this recent one, side effects of being a lack of joy for life, a lack of enthusiasm, of feeling life to the fullest extent of how it's felt before, not feeling or enjoying anything, not feeling joy in listening to music or any of the hobbies or interests that I once had, um, having a lowered sex drive and the urges of all of those different things being completely suppressed and dulled due, and I completely contribute it to medication. So going in and expressing these different side effects, also with like shakiness is another one, which I don't know if you can see. Let's see if we can see on the. It's slight, just a little, but a a common side effect of psychiatric medication is like shakiness. It's a slight tremor, which it used to be much worse. My hands, anyways, used to be a lot worse. But I started once I realized how bad it was, I really started focusing in on it and trying to focus to like calm it down and meditate on it essentially, which may be some voodoo magic type thinking towards it. But yeah, that one's frustrating. But anyways, I was going in and I'm expressing these negative side effects month after month after month to the doctor, and them not being willing to budge on how they thought um my treatment moving forward should go. It was kind of just stick to status quo, stick to what it is, kind of put up with the side effects. That's going to be the life you're going to live. And I was never willing to accept that. I was never willing to accept, oh, this is going to be the life you're going to live. You're going to be forced to live a lesser quality of life and live with these side effects. And fundamentally, what it came down to was not fearing the risk of a potential relapse that could come with lowering medication or changing medication entirely. So, finally changing my perspective and going in to the doctor and going into appointments and saying, "Hey, this is how it's going to be. We are going to," and I probably started off with saying, "Hey, we're lowering, or I'm going to lower the medication. It's just what's going to happen." Um, and then maybe over a little bit of time, realizing that it's probably more important to bring in the doctor with your decisions and your actions, that still, if you want to change something, you can communicate that, but bring them to be a part of it. Say something similar to, "Hey, I think I'm going to lower this medication. These negative side effects or these negative symptoms I'm living with are too detrimental. I no longer foresee myself continuing on living with these negative side effects. I need a change. I would really appreciate if you can help me in any way possible in doing so with your knowledge and education on these different medications and this field of practice. It would be incredibly beneficial to me if we worked on this together instead of me purely having to do this on my own." So, coming at it with that perspective is much, much more helpful than just saying, "Hey, listen, listen here, mother. This is the law of the land. I'm lowering the medication." But yeah, going in, kind of expressing that the side effects are too much to bear, or it's not worth it. But I would say a lot of people are probably, not only are they likely scared of the potential to relapse into a state of psychosis because, and I come from a history of psychotic episodes and episodes of psychosis, which are very, very interesting, very life altering in its own right. But coming from that, the fear that family, friends, doctors may have of a relapse into that, I would assume it would be natural that no doctor or no family member wants that on their conscience. No family member or doctor wants to see their patient or son, daughter, best friend, partner, whatever, go back into a state that is out of touch with reality, or that they may have to be hospitalized again and that they may never recover from. So weighing the risk of, is it worth living with these negative side effects and symptoms that I'm currently having, or am I no longer fearful of the potential risk that could come with changing, lowering medication? So for me, it was that decision, which I no longer feared psychosis. And I mean, this is a personal thing, obviously. I don't fear psychosis. And I think that comes from, I think it comes from God in a sense, that whatever is meant to happen in this world will happen. Whatever is meant to happen with me and my health and my destiny ultimately will happen regardless. But in pursuit of a better life, in pursuit of a happier, healthier standard of living, being willing to risk, you could say, the potential for something negative to happen is kind of, in a philosophical sense, the risks that we take in life. Some of the biggest risks come with the biggest rewards, some might say. So that was a big thing. So, and even there was something I was talking about before I got into the spiel about talking to the doctor. See if it comes back to me. But yeah, once you go through and you're then left with your new state of reality and living, the family and the friends and everyone around are so acutely aware of the potential harm or potential situations that you can end up in, that you're encircled by their fears. You're encircled by their conscience of not wanting you to end up in a negative place. And not only, and it was easy for me to get mad at them. And I was mad at them. I was mad at the doctor for months and months for not realizing or not helping me, essentially, or seeing me on common ground. But this will tie into our second topic here of cynicism. It was easy for me to be mad at those around me and start to say or feel that they weren't helping me, even though from their point of view and their perspective, they were doing what was best for me. Their thoughts and ideas or how they would interact with me was, in their mind, best for me. But from my point of view, it felt that nobody was seeing or hearing me where I was coming from, or how it felt to be encircled by everyone spewing the same talking points, spewing the same potential risks that may come of these certain things, these certain topics. So it was easy to be mad. It's easy to get cynical and start pointing the finger and saying, like, hey, no, you, like, fuck you, fuck off. You don't understand how I feel. You don't understand what it's like. It's easy to be that, but it's a lot more beneficial and practical to try to understand why they're doing what they're doing, and it's instinctual. It comes from a sense of they want to do what's best for their kids or their partner or whoever it is. It's very logical, it's reasonable to be empathetic towards their kid and not want to risk something negative that could happen. So they're very tricky and complicated scenarios that I've spent time obviously thinking about how I can portray them, how I can communicate them. And only with time, talking about them more out loud and communicating them more, will I express them more clearly and more redefined to be consumed easier, more pragmatically. That's the right word. I think it's the right word. But yeah, there was a lot of time or a lot of years because I'm 7 years into mental health and psychiatry now. So from the age of 18 was my first episode of mania and psychosis. And from that point on, you're kind of thrusted into a new world. You're thrusted into a new identity. From that point on, you're told what you are. You're told that you have a diagnosis. You're kind of, not only you're told what you are and the problems that you have, comes with that diagnosis and that image is everything of history and media and movies that has been built in that portrays these people with these diagnoses and that image. So not only are you getting a new diagnosis and a new identity, you're kind of getting the entirety of history that is built in that negative image, that negative baggage that comes with these labels is kind of thrusted upon you. Pause. It's thrusted upon you as well as you choose. You don't have the choice. As you don your new label, moving into this world as a mental illness patient. So, with that being said, once you get this new identity, kind of, you're spoken for, you have, now you're seeing a psychiatrist, you're taking medication, your life changes, your world changes, your worldview changes, and you can become cynical, you can have doubts, you can question, why me? Why did this happen to me? And as you further go on in your health process or life, repeat episodes may happen. You may have a hospitalization or an episode, a psychotic break. Maybe then you rebuild yourself. You climb out. You climb out of the trenches, okay? You reestablish yourself in this world. You plant your feet firmly and you say, look at me, world. And then your whole world may collapse again. Everything may fall apart again. You may end up in the hospital again. You may end up on the street, homeless, back addicted to drugs. And at that point, that's when the cynicism can begin to seep in. These negative thoughts, potentially depressive thoughts, suicidal thoughts can seep in. So the more of the process being dragged out, the more episodes you have, it's super easy to become more and more cynical. So I think it's important to have a North Star, you could say. It's very important to have a North Star of, and that could be God. That's God for me. I believe it should be some sort of spiritual thing. Some sort of higher power that has a plan, has a path for you, regardless of how shitty it may feel at the time, regardless of how bad it may look of where you are, of where you currently lay your hat, to know that there is a bigger plan, a brighter future, but to have that to constantly try to pull a positive look, a positive mindset out of something that is very negative is very important, because the cynicism can ultimately spiral. You can become more and more and more cynical. You can then exclude yourself from life. You can cut off friends, and you can retreat back further into the darkness, into the cave of cynicism. And you can retreat, and that cave is deep. The cave is endless, okay? And you can continue backpedaling in, and it may feel that you may never get out of that deep cavern of cynicism in that cave. But if you're willing, if you open your mind and your heart and your soul to it, there will always be a splinter. It may be a very tiny little splinter, but there will always be a splinter of light in that cavern or in that cave of cynicism to pull yourself out of, no matter how dark it may seem. And at times I felt that I was in complete darkness. I was in that, and this is kind of a new term I just kind of thought up, that's the cave of cynicism. But if you believe, if you have faith in yourself, if you have faith in something more than just you, a higher purpose, a higher meaning, that there is good in this world, that regardless of what happened to you, regardless of how bad some of these experiences may look, your life can still be something worth living for, something worth striving for and building towards. If you never lose that mindset, regardless of how bad things get, you will always find yourself out into the light, out, and you'll exit the cave eventually. You may spend some time in the cave, though. You may spend some time in the cave, but you gotta build in the cave. Okay, you forge yourself. You gotta do some push-ups, just like how Iron Man, how Tony Stark, and he's in the cave and he builds his whatever, his suit of armor, Iron Man, out of the cave, and he comes forth into the world as Iron Man. That's you. That's what you gotta be, okay? Regardless of how dark, how empty the cave is, you go searching. You search for little pebbles. You search for whatever, and you build yourself. So when you take the stage and you re-enter the world, you enter it as Iron Man, flying around, fucking up anyone who gets in your way. Okay, that's I like that. I like that metaphor, Iron Man. But yeah, that's, I guess, that is a little topic. And then lastly, we will get to be Iron Man, motherfucker. Be Iron Man. But, and then, that was good. That was a good little topic. Clip that. Good little topic. The last topic that we have, I will get into, is the balance of psychiatry. And what do I mean by that is, not only is medication the end-all be-all, the most important pillar, to some, dependent on who you ask, medication may be the most important pillar. But there are other pillars that go along with being the best potential version of yourself and being the healthiest, happiest person you can be coming out of a negative situation or a psychotic episode, a mental institute, hospitalization. And what are some of those things? Medication. Medication is a very important one, obviously. I think community, going out, creating friendships, not going and excluding yourself from the world, not having any relationships, and completely fearing what people may think of you or what the potential narrative in their minds may be of you. you have to go and try to make friends. You have to go and try to be out in the world. You can't just hide from the world at all times. Even though personally I like hiding sometimes. I like being a monk sometimes. Exercise is very important. You don't have to be good. You don't have to be a pro athlete. Walking, skipping, whatever it is, go rock climbing, anything, some form of exercise. And then there's nature. I think nature is incredibly important. Some sort of grounding mechanism that you're not overly stimulated. You're not constantly tied to what's going on in the world of social media, the constant dopamine drip of the world, whether that's actually being out in nature, some sort of gardening, plants, bonsai. Bonsai is a personal favorite of mine. There's also obviously a spiritual connection to the world, whether that is through religion, um, meditation, prayer. That is a very important pillar. And then there is expression, I would say. And I would say this one may be the most important, is being able to express what's going on in your life. Because if you carry all of this pent up energy, these pent up thoughts and ideas, and you never actually get an outlet to express them, you will hold on to them, and they will build and they'll fester inside of you, and ultimately they'll implode. And that implosion, what may come of that may be something very ugly, which you don't want in the world. So you need some sort of outlet that isn't drugs, that isn't alcohol, it can be creative, it can be artistic, it can be journaling, it could be singing, dancing, whatever the fuck it is. It doesn't matter. But some sort of expression is incredibly important to not build and fester those internal ideas and internal feelings that you may have, because it only, and speaking from experience, it only creates something negative the more you hold on to those, and the longer the timeline goes of unexpressed feelings, unexpressed ideas, that suppression, that's the boot holding those down. They will come up in one form or another, either through complete suppressing them with alcohol, drugs of some sorts, completely ostracizing, secluding yourself from the world, or expression. Freedom of expression with your voice, your ideas, artistic expression, dance like nobody's watching, whatever it is. But so I think the best form of health, or the best blueprint coming out of a psychiatric hospitalization or a psychotic break, whatever it is, a episode of depression, is to take a combination of all of those things. So the medication, the exercise, healthy diet is also another one, some sort of spiritual outlet, and then nature, some sort of grounding, slowing that isn't overly stimulating, that is not technology based, and then obviously just complete and utter expression. Free expression is some mix of all of them. You don't have to do all of them. Maybe you focus on one more than the other. Maybe you like one way more than the other. But some form of those is very, very important. You can't just solely rely on medication to then get you through the rest of your life, because I don't think that is enough. With how our world currently looks, with how hard the world is for any human being, I don't think medication is purely enough to sustain someone with predispositions to feeling depressed or manic or suicidal, whatever these things are, I think the medication can surely help in some sort of sense, but medication is not the ultimate solution that rids you of all of those feelings and problems. There is a multitude of other things that you need to do. And it's not easy. It's not easy by any means to go and do these things and take care of yourself if you're even able to do some of these things. But it comes down to what kind of life you want to live. It comes down to what you want your future to look like, what kind of life you want to live. Do you want to be happy? Do you want to live a life of purpose and meaning and health and family? Or do you want to just be a docile, chemically castrated person of the system, of mental health, of psychiatry? So it's entirely up to you. It's entirely up to me. It always has been, and it always will be. The fate of your future is always in your hands. It may not always feel that way, but I truly believe that we are the creators of our future. Anything we do in the moment has very big impacts and impactfulness moving forward into the future. So we kind of create and manifest our own manifest destiny. I don't know what's that. What is that from? But we are the ones in control. And you have to realize that. You have to admit that for yourself. But that comes with, what's the word? Your own accountability, I guess. Even accountability towards anything that happened to you in the past. You have to be accountable for the system, even though a system might be set up against you. It may feel that a doctor or everything in the world is set up against you, but you cannot then turn your blame and put it outwards onto everyone else and be cynical and cast blame, because that is not gonna propel you into a better future. You need to be accountable regardless of any circumstance you're in, and change what you can. And yeah, that's that. So those were our three little topics for the day. I think that went pretty good. I went pretty good. I like you can kind of get into a little flow. Get into a flow with some ideas that they really start popping off. Sometimes I find I'll be talking and you start a point and it starts veering off into something else, and you get so far off that you forget what that other point was, that it doesn't snap back into the story, and it just drifts and sails away, and you never get back to the point. It's tragedy. But sometimes it does. Sometimes you keep talking and you keep talking and waiting, and there's a glimmer of hope that fading point that was there at one time may come back to you. But does it? Not always. Not always. Not always. Okay, so that was our main topics for the show. I'm going to go and do a little browsing around. I'm going to do a little browsing. Going to check in on a couple websites. And then we are going to get out of here and call it a night. Let's go and check in on Mad in America. I'm going to copy this real quick. And then let's go back to it. We need a culture that embraces emotion instead of numbing it. Fair. Is this a blog? Okay, let's read this. This is interesting. We need a culture that embraces emotion instead of numbing it. America is a mental health crisis, but not the crisis you might think. The real problem isn't in our minds, it's in our medicine cabinets. As a junior in high school, I fell into what many would consider a depression. An already timid introvert, I would stumble through the school day with my head down, just trying to make it through without bursting into tears. The activities I used to enjoy, baseball, watching sports, lunch with friends, didn't excite me. I wasn't actively suicidal, but the thought of death was inescapable. After a few weeks, the anguish became unbearable, and I did what many in my position would. I asked my parents to take me to see a doctor. My pediatrician posited that I was experiencing a depressive episode and recommended I start seeing a therapist. I was open to the idea of therapy, but I expected and even hoped that he would prescribe me drugs. Yet the topic of antidepressants was never raised, an admission to which I unmetaphorically owe my life had they been offered. I would have welcomed psychiatric drugs with open arms. The process of therapy was slow and painful at times, but I eventually began to see improvement in my mood and outlook. I was taught to embrace my sadness and anxiety, to treat them not as intruders, but as parts of myself asking to be understood. I learned the triggers of such emotions and tangentially the triggers of happier emotions. Therapy was, in essence, of self-awakening. I grew to understand myself on a deeper level. Unfortunately, my experience in mental health system is an exception, not the rule. Consider my friend's story, who I will refer to as Sal. Sal's journey began in a similar place to my own, with the fog of sadness and anxiety slowly thickening with the pubescent mind. The parallels end here. When Sal went to his parents, he was met with a presumptive diagnosis. His mom mentioned that she also struggled with negative thoughts, and that they were a sign of depression, a chronic condition that ran in the family. It must have been passed down to Sal. Sal was taken to the family psychiatrist who had been prescribing mom antidepressants for decades. Within 15 minutes, Sal was diagnosed with depression and given a bottle of SSRIs. Just like that. Give him the candy. Most damagingly, he was told that he had a chemical imbalance. Ooh, the chemical imbalance. The critical chemical imbalance. Whatever the fuck that means. And so, when I was told about this chemical imbalance theory, one, it's been proven not to be true or valuable. That's not a word. Viable. Anyways, this chemical imbalance theory, there's no provable, you can't prove it. You can't prove that someone's brain is chemically imbalanced. There's no test, there's no pragmatic test that can prove your brain is in some sort of chemical imbalance. So, I think this chemical imbalance theory was a huge way that the psychiatry system and the mental health system diagnosed people and put them under, and it sounds good, right? It sounds very good. It's very persuasive to hear, oh, you have a chemical imbalance in your brain. Hearing that, you easily would then come to the conclusion, okay, I need something to then balance the imbalance in my brain, which then, oh, these pills, these medications will help the imbalance that you have in your brain. So it's all logical. It makes sense. But in actual practicality, the imbalance theory saying someone's brain is chemically unbalanced holds no weight. It's all nonsense, okay? I don't know if I'm going to read through this whole thing. For the next 2 years, the drugs became Sal's reality. At the mercy of a chronic illness, Sal's only hope was that the medicine would dampen the weight of his sadness so he could live a semi-normal life. Yeah, see, medicine, I like how they, this is good. Medicine, um, it's not, it's not given that so that those feelings, those emotions that you have are then dispersed. Those still lie underneath the surface. It's just then that those medicines, those medications, dampen and suppress what lies underneath the surface. So, in actuality, you're not actually solving or curing the problem that is there. You're just dampening and suppressing and further pushing something aside that needs to be healed, that needs to be potentially expressed, that needs to actually come into the world because something is clearly wrong there. And instead of figuring out what is clearly wrong or rationally dealing with what is clearly wrong, we suppress it, we dampen it, and we say, no, take these pills. Now all your problems are solved. And that's what we do. That is the system. Yeah, I'm not gonna read. I'm not gonna read through all this. Therapy centering subjectivity. This is kind of cool. This website, I guess, is kind of. I mean, I guess it has a lot of similar ideas to what I have in mind, I guess, but kind of not. I guess I would say I have a more modern take on what I want to do through streaming, through a show, through more kind of vulnerability. I think it's one thing, and don't get me wrong, something like this is amazing. Blogs, websites, personal stories, personal connections is great, but a certain level of vulnerability and for someone to see a face, for someone to hear a voice of an actual story, of actual raw emotion, I think connects on a certain deeper level than maybe this kind of repetitive blog-like story type thing we've heard over and over. Because a lot of this isn't anything new that we haven't heard people of psychiatry and mental health express throughout the years, that it's an unjust system. They believe there are a lot of holes in the system. They believe there could be a lot of things changed for the benefit of the people coming through the system, the youth coming through the system, for a potential better future. So, in analyzing history, in analyzing what people have done, what people have tried to do, what some of the doctors have tried to do, some of their approaches, you have to try to see their pitfalls and see, okay, have they actually fundamentally changed anything whatsoever? Have they actually improved anything whatsoever? And if so, and if they haven't, why? Why is that the case? So you have to kind of see through some of the pitfalls of other people's efforts, and not to diminish anyone's efforts, but to take positives from what they've done, and then try and see what has stopped them in the past, and then use that to strengthen yourself. Use that to evolve, and then go in with your line that you want to take and direct into the future is my approach to it. There's something in here that shows it shows some art. Yeah, there it is. I like going in here. Poetry collection. What do you guys think? Should we read a couple poetries? A couple poems? A couple poetries? Okay, we'll read a poem. I'm mad preschool teacher. Let's hit Beauty Remains by Diana Spore. Diana Spore. The back door to her mind swung open and cracked down the middle, bursting into flames. A blazing inferno swept through, charring fragile and ragged structures, transforming the landscape into bleakness, apparent ugliness, impending desolation, except for one very small area, barely visible to outside observers, the clinicians. A few wild flowers struggled to survive as attempts were made to put out the remaining flames. If only they would not storm this new world, trampling what remained, rather than protecting and nourishing the remaining beauty, life, and uniqueness from the old world, because the wild flowers could thrive and spread, strong, defiant, beautiful. Diana Spore, PhD. Is a mental health advocate, social gerontologist. What's a gerontologist? What is this? Anyone know what this is? Let's find out. What's a gerontologist? A geroncologist is someone who studies aging and older adults, but they are not necessarily medical doctors. How people age, physical, mental, and social changes in older adults. Geriatrician. Different from a gerontologist. I'm struggling with that word. Let's go back there. One poem, a couple art pieces, maybe. What's this? That's an army. That's the army. It's my army. It's a dangerous army. Those are my people. Okay, some abstract. Okay, what's this? Talk out in the back. This is pretty good. What is this? Gas mask? Paint mask? This looks like XXX Tentacion. Is that not? Doesn't have any of his tattoos, but that one's cool. Liberation of Psyche. I find it very interesting that the more I read through different mental health stuff, the more I read of patient stories talking about what they've gone through. Everyone is very cross-pollinated. There are a lot of overlapping stories. There are a lot of overlapping ideas. You can even say there are a lot of overlapping delusions. And what I would attribute this to is kind of what Carl Jung would say is the universal unconscious. Is that what he calls it? What's it called? I think it's called. But I'm not gonna spell. Whatever. Carl's collective. Okay, not universal. Collective unconscious. Yeah, I think this is like very, very prominent in people with different mental health disorders, because I would say we're more in tuned with nature in a sense. We're more in tuned with our feelings. Our feelings are much more elevated. Our insights are much more elevated at times, which is why they come out and can be seen as very negative, impactful things that kind of need structure or need some medication to balance and stabilize. But there's a sense of that a lot of us in this world of psychiatry and mental health have very similar views and ideas and hallucinations. And I think it's very interesting. And I think this is what it stems from, is the collective unconscious. Um, my brain hurts. Surely it can be fixed. Dopamine here, serotonin there. Why would they care? It's not them, but us. We are the problem, and it's become too much to bear. Oh, it would all add some flair. This is cool. Fuck with it. I like the ones that are people's brains melting, like time and clocks, time distortion, and people just like melting. I like those. I like those ones. Yeah, kind of like this. But you look at it and you're like, what the fuck is that? Eyeballs. There's always eyeballs. For some reason, there's always eyeballs. The eyeballs are always watching. When people paint stuff like this, is it like a representation of what their psyche they think their psyche is, or is it just pure expression? Because if this is like this is a broken psyche. What's that? Cat? Jesus. Jesus, and in particular his big toe. It's got something to do with his big toe. I guess you guys can't see Jesus. Jesus is there though. I'm kind of blocking Jesus, but he's there, okay? I'm trying to think of segments. I don't know if I should break the show into segments. I kind of like the idea of that. I have my main core topics I talk about. I do my spiel, and then I can look at art. I could look at any things that is sent to me, questions, different that sort of stuff. I had an idea of this is what we're gonna do. Come along for the ride of breaking down and reacting to videos. Uh, is what I want to do. But I have to make sure everything is muted first, because that would be an error, a big error if not everything is muted. But yeah, let's do some video breakdowns. Let me connect to the old headphones real quick. It'd be great if they showed up right away. Or I guess I should have them pre-connected, huh? I guess that would be a little more seamless, a little more professional. Wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? Let me check. Let me check to see if my phone's connected to them. Maybe the problem. Hmm. My apologies here, folks. Bear with me. Bear with me. I don't know why it does this. It's so frustrating. Speaker, Yeti stereo microphone. Hmm. Well, The headphones won't show up, we don't get to watch videos. They're mainly just fight videos. Like, look at. Maybe I should find ones that are um more appropriate or more on more on topic for what I'm talking about. Like these these are literally just fight clips. Like look at them. Uh this is actually an interesting one though. So this, I mean I'll just explain what's happening in it. I find this one interesting because this guy's driving obviously. It's transportation. But as he as you can see, he says, "Stay alert. This is what they use to traffic children." Spelled traffic wrong. I shouldn't be judging. I spell everything wrong. Um, so coming across a video such as that on the internet, and it says, "This is what they use to traffic children." I mean, obviously, this comes with the freedom of speech. This comes with free will and anyone being able to create content and put out content into the world, similar to how I'm able to. Everyone has that right. Everyone should have that right. But it's also very dangerous because I look at this from the lens of like mental health, and I look at this from the lens of my peers because we're much more susceptible to views and ideologies that may strain from normalcy, the normal path, especially in different states of reality and elevated moods. We're very, very susceptible to conspiratorial things, conspiratorial ideologies and ideas that may not have a basis in reality and a firm grounding in what's real and what's not. So to come across a video that says, stay alert, they traffic children in a Pepsi transportation truck, which to say, is it real? Is it not real? Who knows? Is there some truth to it? Maybe, potentially. But and I'm only saying this because of the world I'm in, because the world I want to protect, the people I want to protect, and the things I want to improve upon. But being susceptible to videos like this is very dangerous, and the amount of consumption that people are consuming stuff like this, if you're not actually and actively aware as you're scrolling or as you're consuming information on the internet, you don't know what kind of conspiracies, what kind of ideologies, what kind of things people are pressing into your mind without you actually being aware of it. And then you're back spewing it out into the world and you don't even know where it came from. You don't even know where those ideas came from, those ideologies, those beliefs. So it can be very dangerous to just, and goes without saying, to just browse the interweb. It can be dangerous. And with that being said, let's go browse the interwebs. Now let's go to Reddit. Let's go check out Reddit. Let's go check out Reddit. Let's go check it out. Let's go into bipolar. Bipolar. Yeah. Bipolar with the check. Bipolar. I just put some crazy around my neck. Bipolar. How to describe how a manic episode feels like to someone who's never had one. I feel like when I say I was in a manic episode, people hear it as some kind of an excuse. It's so hard to explain what it feels like. How out of my own control I can get. How all the damage I've done and relationships I've ruined are caused by it. Feels like you're touched by God. Pause. Not sexually. You're one with God. I freaking did it. Let's go. What you do? It looks sick. See the setup. Is this like school or something? And here you are living despite it all. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. A manic episode plus Black Friday deals? Oh, damn. How's your bank account looking? Not good. Yeah, if you're ever manic, cursing and a cursing and a blessing. Because one day, everything you've ever wanted, if you have the money for it, the packages, the gifts, they'll be at your door. Or it can be very damaging because I go and get tattoos. I get more tattoos. But it's not tattoos that I didn't want. So that's some were very spontaneous and impulsive, but for the most part they are very well planned out. But then that mania impulsivity gives me the courageousness, the spontaneity, I think that's the word, to act upon those decisions. Let's go see if that's the word. I believe it is spontaneity. Spontaneity. Is that a word? It looks like you meant spontaneity. Ah. There's no official English word spontaneity. Spontaneity sounds pretty good though. Not gonna lie. Spontaneity. Definition. His creativity comes from spontaneity. Okay. Okay, so spontaneity means nothing. I just made up a word. Coin that word. Give it to me. Pause. Spontaneous. Other words. Here are clean synonyms for spontaneous. Unplanned, impulsive, instinctive, natural, free-flowing, unpremeditated, in the moment, off the cuff, on the spot, lively energy. These words suck. Innate. These aren't very good words. A forgiveness letter to my manic self. That's interesting. Today, I forgive myself. Again and again. With patience and softness, I forgive myself for the things I said. When I was hurting, when my mind was overwhelmed, when my emotions were bigger than my body could hold. I forgive myself for the messages, the rambling, the confusion, the moments that were not truly me, but reflections of a mind under pressure. I remind myself I was not in control. I was not malicious. I was not weird. I was unwell. And I needed grace, not shame. Today I choose compassion over punishment. I release the fear of being judged. I release the fear that people still think about me. People move on. People forget. People understand more than I think. Today I hold myself with gentleness. I hold the version of me who was scared, lost, overwhelmed, and I tell her, you are safe now. You are healing. You are learning. You are growing. And I'm not abandoning you. I choose to honor myself instead of replaying moments that no longer exist. The past does not deserve to sit inside my chest forever. It happened. It passed. And I survived it. Today, I give myself permission to move forward, to be proud of the woman I am becoming, to feel I'm not a woman, to feel joy without guilt, to trust myself again, to breathe freely. I'm allowed to be human. I'm allowed to make mistakes. I'm allowed to heal, and I deserve peace, especially from myself. With love, me. Beautiful messages. That's good. I think forgiveness is such an important part of healing on someone's process to bettering themselves or becoming who they're truly meant to be. Not only forgiving those around you, those who you may hold grudges against or anger towards or envy, but to forgive yourself, to accept and forgive your past actions, past consequences, past things you said and did, past bridges you burned, because to hold on to that baggage for forever will only leave you and not allow you to move forward in life swiftly and in your truest sense and your truest nature and to the best of your abilities. So forgiveness towards and acceptance towards yourself is so incredibly important. This is a really good message. This is a really, really good message. I like that. Does anyone relate to high function plus masking until burnout? Go to psychosis. Does anyone else kind of think that they've died? Okay. No. I don't think I died. Well, not right now. I've died at times. Had a psychotic episode last year and painted drew this before, during, and after. It's 37 feet long. Yep. That's awesome. What is that? Pretty cool. Wish I could see other sections of it. Last time I was at a hospital. Should be careful. Oh, they gave you a knife? It's a knife? It's a knife. Actually, I should be careful on here. Because you never know what's gonna pop up. My little elephant. Okay. Okay. Let's go to... Who's that? Why does that dude look so familiar? What does he play? He's an actor. Like an actor? Yeah. Anyways. That is going to be our show for the day. I think that was a great show. Number 8. Show number 8. Starting to get the hang of this, I would say. Coming on. Pick a few topics, talking points, and just kind of riff. See where they go. And see what could come of it. I think that's a great memo for the show. Elbows are a little red. But again, to anyone who came along, to anyone who made it this far in the show, is still watching, thank you. I am truly grateful for each and every viewer, each and every listener and watcher, anyone that comes along. My hope is a better future of the mental health system, of psychiatry, and not only of the system and psychiatry, but to every person in it, any person that has gone through it, and any person in the future that will enter into that world. I hope to create things that will benefit all of those people. That is a lofty goal, you could say, but it is one I will achieve without a doubt. So, that being said, thank you. Feel free to drop a comment, some critiques. I'm always here for a good critique, things I could work on, things I could improve upon, maybe a nice positive comment. Whatever you have to say, I'm here for it. Subscribe, follow along, and thanks for watching. Until tomorrow, bye guys.